Hello dear lovely YouTube watchers, minding the gaps. I'm still here. I'm sorry I haven't done a YouTube video for a while. I've been over on TikTok and living in the middle of a house renovation, so I've been busy. I can't help but make excuses. Making excuses is what we're expert level at spotting when other people are making excuses when they're being interviewed, aren't we? But let's have a little look at what is happening with the baby reindeer. And I'm sorry I'm behind the news. I'm probably not up to date. Yeah, no, I'm not up to date. September 2024 and it's currently February 2025. Every now and again, something will come up on my feed about baby reindeer and it'll be something that Fiona Harvey has said. And then when I go back to have a look, it's not there and I can't find it. And I'm not imagining this. There'll be articles in the Daily Mirror or some other little radio station or something that's done a little article. I think, oh, that sounds interesting. What's happening? And then I go and check for it and it's gone. And every time they do a little article on this, they explain the whole story again. What have they said about this one? This time, a US judge has ruled hit streaming series Baby Reindeer has been wrongly billed as a true story and will allow a woman who says she has been identified as the real life Martha to pursue her defamation lawsuit against Netflix. The Emmy Award-winning series, even though he was Scottish and she was Scottish and she's a lawyer in England, but it had to go to a US court. The Emmy Award-winning series follows the life of Donnie Dunn, a barman and struggling comedian who is stalked by a woman called Martha Scott, played by Jessica Gunning, with viewers being told in the opening sequence that this is a true story. Created by Richard Gadd, who also stars as Dunn, the series sparked an online frenzy over the real-life identities of some of the characters, with Scottish lawyer Fiona Harvey being named as the real Martha. Earlier this year, Ms. Harvey said she had been forced to come forward. That was my thing, wasn't it? No one's forced anyone to come forward. After receiving online death threats from internet sleuths, and filed a $170 million, £127 million lawsuit claiming the story was inaccurate and had falsely accused her of being a convicted stalker. She wasn't a convicted stalker. And due events in the show of attacking Gadd. Due events in the show attacking Gadd. Netflix filed a motion in July in an effort to get the lawsuit thrown out. But in the ruling in a Californian court on Friday, Judge Gary Klausner said, "It appears that a reasonable viewer could understand the statements about Martha to be about the plaintiff, Ms. Harvey. The judge said the show had exaggerated the actions of Ms. Harvey in the show with statements of a worse degree. Each of the factors suggests that the statements would be interpreted as assertions of fact," the ruling stated. Now, I know that Netflix's argument is that they didn't make it as bad as it could have been, and they're saying it could have been a lot worse. It says here, while the statements were made in a series that largely has the trappings of a black comedy drama, the very first episode states unequivocally that this is a true story. Ms. Harvey has previously said she met Gadd when she visited a London pub for a meal, but had never heckled his comedy show, visited his home, or contacted his parents. In an interview with Piers Morgan, she said she'd sent a handful of emails, tweeted him about 18 times, and written him one letter. Who is Baby Reindeer creator Richard Gadd, and will he win big at the Globes? Baby Reindeer has been a huge hit on Netflix and is written by and stars comedian Richard Gadd. And it tells the story again. Every time they post a picture, they tell the story. Where is Baby Reindeer's real-life Martha now after threatening to sue Netflix? This year Netflix became completely gripped. Blah, 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 blah. Fiona Harvey was saying they mercilessly promoted it, and now we're still doing it, ripping into it and picking it apart and having a look. But it's so fascinating. Every time a picture comes up in the paper, people are looking at it, clicking on it. Of course they are. Listen to this. Fiona Harvey also mentioned receiving online threats, including one from a person in North Carolina who threatened to stalk her. She has also criticised Netflix, telling the Scottish Sun, "I have a claim against Netflix, as this is being billed as part of a true story. People are probably saying I'm a mass murderer. This can't continue. I will kick their asses." Additionally, she expressed dissatisfaction with the series casting, saying, "There's a fat actress that's supposed to be me," and added, "I am very attractive. He's not Brad Pitt," regarding Gad. She told the Daily Record that she wants nothing to do with him. She declared, "I want to put this to rest. I want nothing to do with him. He is a nightmare. I just want to get on with my life." She also clarified, "The scenery in a cafe with him, which I have been shown, did not happen." So show creator Gad later called on fans to cease their sleuthing, emphasising that it's not the point of the show. In his message to fans, Gad expressed concern for those he knows in the industry who have been caught up in the speculation, as he implored followers to halt their investigations. In a heartfelt Instagram story, Gad pleaded, "Hi everyone. People I love, have worked with and admire, including Sean Foley, are unfairly getting caught up in speculation. Please don't speculate on who the real life people could be. That's not the point of our show. Lots of love." In July, Netflix said the real Martha on the hit show Baby Reindeer was not convicted of stalking. The character Martha, in the dramatisation, ended up sending Donnie more than 41,000 emails, 744 tweets, 100 pages of letters, and 350 hours of voicemails. In the hit show, which was billed as a true story, Martha winds up with a 9-month jail sentence for a campaign of harassment against the comic. Since it aired on Netflix earlier this year, it has gone on to become one of their most watched series of all time. It has now been reported that Netflix have confirmed the real Martha was subject to a court order over her interactions with Gad, rather than a conviction. Netflix made the admission in a letter to British Parliament's Culture, Media and Sport Committee after a lawmaker questioned evidence the streaming site supplied during a hearing earlier this year. Oh, hold on. Can we have a look at that then? According to Deadline, Netflix Senior UK Director of Public Policy, Benjamin King, appeared before the committee in May, let me write that down, and said the series was true story of the horrific abuse suffered by Gad at the hands of a convicted stalker. Committee member wrote to Netflix, John Nicholson, demanding evidence to support the claim. He stated that journalists have thus far been unable to find a record of the conviction to which you referred. In a letter of response, King said, "I wanted to clarify our understanding that the person on whom the show is based, who we have at no point sought to identify, was subject to a court order rather than a conviction." He added the writer of Baby Reindeer endured serious harassment over many months, as it now seems has been the case for many others, which had a significant impact on his well-being. A Netflix spokesperson told the Mirror, "The letter was sent to the DCMS Select Committee on 23rd of May, well before any legal case was filed, and has been publicly available since. It does not impact our legal position." They also shared that every episode of Baby Reindeer states this programme is based on real events. However, certain characters' names, incidents, locations and dialogue have been fictionalised for dramatic purposes. The real Martha, who the Mirror is choosing not to name or picture, is demanding £135 million from the streaming giant after claiming details used in their record-breaking show are fabrications and defame her. What does he look like? The one from Netflix? He looks a bit familiar.
Yes, could I just ask Mr. King a question? We were all talking in our private meeting beforehand about all the things that we were enjoying watching and binge watching for some of us. And a number of different people mentioned Baby Reindeer, which is one of yours. I think it's had 54 million views worldwide or something like that. So huge success. but it was a difficult watch, wasn't it? And I just wonder what your duty of care rules are in series like that or productions like that. Were you concerned about the characters being identified and the effect that it would have on the characters concerned?
Baby Reindeer is an extraordinary story, and it is obviously a true story of the horrific abuse that the writer and protagonist Richard Gadd suffered at the hands of a convicted stalker. We did take every reasonable precaution in disguising the real-life identities of the people involved in that story in the making of the show.
She's been identified,
whilst
hasn't she?
Also striking a balance with the veracity and authenticity of Richard's story, because we didn't want to anonymise that or make it generic to the point where it was no longer his story, because that would undermine the intent behind the show.
I think I might have to watch the whole of this from the start. This is a 4-minute clip, because that guy sitting next to him can hardly believe. In fact, both of them are looking at him. And the rest of the time when you watch them, they're all just sitting looking forward. They're looking at the papers. Look at this. They can't believe that he's being held on the ropes like this. Look. And he is holding his own. Interestingly, talking about authenticity, that's exactly what he's not doing. He's just batting it back to them, isn't he?
And we did also work very closely with the Susie Lamplugh Trust, who runs Britain's National Stalking Helpline, and also We Are Survivors, in promoting and launching the show. And they've said a lot subsequently about what the series has done to drive the conversation around this often quite taboo topic, particularly for male victims of stalking, and the amount of interest and inquiries it's driven to their organisations.
It was a fascinating story and very disturbing.
Okay, the Susie Lamplugh Trust runs Britain's Stalking Helpline. I didn't know that. That's news to me. Susie Lamplugh was an estate agent who, trigger warning, I'm about to say something unpleasant here. She went on a viewing with a customer who was supposed to be looking at a house, and she was never heard or seen from again. Right, no, that's it. I have to assume that she was murdered. I don't think they even found a body in that case. I'd have to look that up, but she did look a bit like Jill Dando, honestly. Here we go. It's a story about what happened to Susie Lamplugh, Lamplugh. Susie Lamplugh, a British estate agent, went missing in 1986 and has never been found. She was presumed murdered in 1993 and declared dead in absentia. The case remains unsolved. What happened on the day she disappeared? July 28th, 1986, 25-year-old Lamplugh went to meet a client in Fulham, in London. She was last seen with a man named Mr. Kipper. Her white Ford Fiesta was later found abandoned in Fulham. The prime suspect, John Cannon, died in 2024, was the only suspect in Lamplug's disappearance. Cannon was a convicted criminal who murdered Shirley Banks in 1987. He was questioned in prison about Lamplug's disappearance, but no charges were brought. What's been done to find Lamplugh? The Lamplugh Trust was set up by her parents to raise awareness of personal safety. The Trust campaigns for new stalking laws. The case is considered the world's biggest missing persons inquiry. Okay, so there's a trust, and they're doing some good work then, sounds like, if they're funding the stalking hotline. So the Susie Lamplugh Trust, head of National Stalking Awareness Week 2025 in April, is conducting research on healthcare practitioners' awareness and understanding of stalking. Stalking is a devastating crime that affects 1 in 5 women and 1 in 10 men. Healthcare providers are often in a unique position to identify and support individuals experiencing stalking. However, there is limited research on how well healthcare professionals recognise and respond to this issue. We're therefore conducting a survey to explore healthcare professionals' awareness and understanding of stalking, with the goal of identifying any gaps in knowledge and improving how stalking is addressed within healthcare settings. Responses will be used to inform a report which will be published during National Stalking Awareness Week.
Disturbing. Okay. But I understand that the woman concerned, the Martha in real life, has now been identified. So presumably this will have quite a significant impact on her life. She's Scottish, I think, and works in the legal profession and is now contemplating legal action, I understand, because of the effect it's had on her life. And I just wondered what your thought process was about her and the effect that this would have on her? Because obviously somebody who's impacted by quite serious mental health problems.
It's tough, isn't it? Because he's aware that people who are stalkers are obviously, they've got mental health issues, they have. And there's a recognition here that by having social media pylons on people that have got issues, is it going to exacerbate the issues?
Richard Gadd was very clear that that was not the intent of the show, that it should inspire people to try and track down the sort of real life individuals. Ultimately, it's obviously very difficult to control what viewers do, particularly in a world where everything is amplified by social media. But fundamentally, this was about Richard's story and telling Richard's story in a truthful way. I personally wouldn't be comfortable with a world in which we decided it was better that Richard was silenced and not allowed to tell his story. So obviously, you know, we are following the situation very closely.
And this guy's argument is that, well, we wanted to tell Richard's story, but they're really not taking into consideration the effect it's going to have on the person who's alleged to have committed those crimes, right? She's got no way of telling people, I didn't do it, apart from going to court. I was just thinking about the emails. Could she show them her emails? If someone was accusing me of sending 41,000 emails and I knew I hadn't, I'd just be screenshotting my emails and saying, have a look at this. Or screenshot the page of emails that had been sent to Richard Gadd. So here, this guy's bringing up the idea of, should we be really considerate of people's mental well-being, the state of their mental health, even when we consider them to be the person that's done the terrible thing, the wrong thing.
Did you offer any contact or support for the Martha character in real life?
I cannot get into the specifics of what happened around the making of the show because it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment, and you know I don't want to give further fuel to some of the theories which are circling on the internet.
In fairness to Richard Gadd, no one could have possibly foreseen that this thing would have blown up to be this global phenomenon that it has, right? So even if he thought to himself, I'm going to publicly humiliate this woman, I want everyone to know what happened and what she did to me, he couldn't have possibly foreseen this outcome. I mean, he wasn't intending to hurt her. He was intending to make the story known to help other people possibly who are experiencing something similar. How much of that, how can you prove the intent? It's really difficult, isn't it? But I think Netflix probably turned a blind eye or just dismissed the idea that it was going to affect her and what impact it was going to have on her. I don't think they really cared, did they? But in fairness to anyone, I don't know how anyone could have foreseen that she would have become a global phenomenon like this. You couldn't have written this, could you? Anyone out there, please feel free to disagree with me. I think Netflix had an idea that they were going for public humiliation and they chose to ignore the impact it was going to have on her. But at the same time, they couldn't have foreseen this massive impact, just the sheer scale of this impact on her. I don't think they could have foreseen it.
Thank you very much, John. I know you all have to go, and I'm so grateful for the amount of time you've given us this today. When you write to me with your details about your spending on skills, can you also answer one last question from me? If you could make one key policy request of the government right now that we should make as a recommendation of our report, please, what would it be? Thank you very much. And thank you for all your time today and all your patience while we've been running around doing all this voting. Order, order.
Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye for now.